And we are back with another hurricane edition of our Practice Makes Perfect podcast. By the time you see this video, if the state of Florida has broken off and floated out to sea, well, that's probably because I taunted Mother Nature, and so that's my bad. Sorry about that. Today I want to talk about the difference between independent contractors and employees. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Jeff, that's an easy one. If I don't want to pay payroll taxes, I just call them independent contractors, right? Well, okay, so that's actually what I want to talk about. So part one, let's get definitions out of the way. I'm going to use the term workers as just my generic term to mean employees, independent contractors, commissioned people, just whatever. Employee, that's easy. It's somebody who gets a W-2 and you claim them by your company, you claim them as employees and you pay payroll taxes for them. So that's pretty straightforward, I think. Independent contractor, that's where things get a little bit murkier. There's about, last time I checked, 15, 17 different criteria as to what makes an independent contractor. I'll just kind of bottom line it for you. It tends to come down to control. So if you, as the owner of the company, have the ability to tell this worker when to report, when they can go home, and you kind of guide their activities during the day, that tends to be the most important factor of all as to, whether this worker is an independent contractor or an employee. If you control, then they're an employee. I don't mean to oversimplify things. There are, in fact, many criteria that can be looked at to determine whether this worker is an independent contractor or an employee. But I promised you guys in my last episode that I'm going to make these videos a little more bite-sized, so I don't want to get too bogged down in the minutia. Just know that the most important factor is the level of control that you exercise over the worker. That tends to trump most of the other criteria, but there is more to the analysis, which we're going to get into just a little bit. Part two. Now, I mentioned, I think in 2 videos ago, I said, what I might start doing is I'm just going to take actual cases or real life matters that I'm handling for clients and see if we can extrapolate lessons from their misery, basically. And so that's what I'm doing here in this episode. Now, in this case, the client is a staffing company, which is already kind of weird from a legal point of view. I mean, think about it. So you got these workers that you farm out to different companies. Okay, so then are the workers, first of all, are they employees or are they independent contractors? If they are employees, of whom are they employees? Are they employees of the companies that you're sending them to, or are they employees of the staffing company? We're not going to try and answer those questions today, but you can see what I mean when I say that it's kind of, it's already sort of a delicate situation with staffing companies. All right, so this is the client that we're talking about today. Now, on sort of a side note, but it is related to this story because, well, it actually happened. I don't know where this client got their agreement, but I suspect they downloaded it from, LegalZoom or one of these online sites, paid $5 for it or whatever, and just took their chances. Obviously, as a lawyer, I don't think you should do that. You should pay me or somebody like me to draft up your agreements. And here's a good example of why. Well, the agreement that this client downloaded, I assume they downloaded, whatever, the agreement they used is entitled Employment Agreement. So that's unfortunate. As we said, there are several criteria for determining the difference between an independent contractor and an employee, but that's one of them. If you have an agreement and if it's entitled Employment Agreement, well, if you're trying to take the position that this worker is an independent contractor, you're off to a rough start. I'm going to talk to you about 2 things here. 2 things that can go wrong, or at least 2 considerations to keep in mind as an employer or the owner of a company when dealing with this particular question. One, obviously, is the state. Let's talk about California just briefly. So, in my opinion, California has all but outlawed the concept of an independent contractor. If you look at some of the jobs that we have traditionally thought are the perfect model of what an independent contractor looks like, like an Uber driver or like a trucker, people that kind of set their own schedules, they work when they want to work. A lot of them have their own equipment. They fit most of the criteria of what we would traditionally consider to be an independent contractor. Well, in California, no go. So, that's not the same here in Florida, but be aware that state by state, some states, particularly the more progressive ones, they don't like that concept. They want you paying those payroll taxes. So that's your first consideration as the owner of the company. If you get challenged by the state, whether it's California, Florida, or wherever, you could very well be challenged. And so having an agreement that says right at the top of it, employment agreement, puts you on your heels if you're trying to argue that this worker is actually an independent contractor. All right, so that's consideration number one, the state. Oh, before I go on to the next point, those penalties are nasty. You know, if you're challenged by the state because you have been declaring a worker as an independent contractor and the ruling is that this worker was in fact an employee, well then be ready for penalties and interest and nastiness. All right, the next point was this. The worker, him or herself. Now, as in this particular case, this particular client, they find themselves at odds with the worker. And I guess my point here is that you put yourself at a disadvantage if you've not checked all the boxes, right? If you've been claiming this person as an independent contractor and now you have a dispute with that very same person, well, they got some leverage on you, right? There's always a possibility of whistleblowing. So now you need to handle the situation very delicately. You can't come down with the same amount of force and as you might otherwise, because they could simply report you to the state, and now that opens a whole can of worms that's probably going to end up not being worth whatever you were fighting about with the worker, him or herself. But that's just about as far as I want to go with this here right now. One, if you're the owner of a business and you're going to go ahead and recognize the worker as an employee and pay your payroll taxes, okay, well, there are a number of considerations that you and I need to talk about in another video. But more importantly for our purposes here today, if you're the owner of a business and you want to call your worker an independent contractor, well, be careful. All right, so first, don't make any boneheaded mistakes. Apologies to my client. But don't, do something obvious like use an agreement that says employee agreement when you're going to try and call this person an independent contractor. Know the difference between the two things. And understand that it could come down to evidence. If it is challenged at some point, then you're going to need to check as many of those boxes of the 15 to 17 different criteria as you can, because that's how you're going to win your case when the state ultimately challenges your characterization of this worker. So, if you do have independent contractors on staff, it would be a good idea to call me or somebody like me to go over their actual status, when you just need to talk about these different criteria and hit as many of them as you can. You may make the decision proactively to call them employees to avoid penalties in the future, to avoid putting yourself at a disadvantage in the case of a dispute with the worker. Or if you decide you want to keep them as independent contractors and you think you have a defensible argument that they are independent contractors, well, let's just shore that up and get you in the best position you can to win that case should it come. And that's what I've got for you guys. I'm going to get back to my hurricane now, which means drinking some wine and eating some cheese. Catch you guys next time.